Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good afternoon. Whatever time you are finding yourself getting to some schoolwork. I hope all of you are doing well. Today is going to be a lesson on Benchmark Unit 7. And I know this because I went to Mr. Tillish's fourth grade classroom. I went to classwork and I went to my to-do list. And in your to-do list, you have your weekly work menu. And when you take a look, you see that as the screen opens, we are gonna go to Wednesday, April 15th. And on Wednesday, April 15th, it states that we have a benchmark ELA lesson, okay? And we are going to be reading about developing a nation. That's the title of the unit. And we're going to be doing lesson 2 and lesson 4, okay? Here on Wednesday. Not only do you have that on your, not only do you have what language arts lesson that we're doing on your weekly work menu in Google Classroom, but you also have in Google Classroom your virtual reading comprehension, and that is over here, okay, on your topics. And if I click on virtual learning reading comprehension, up comes up some new materials, okay? Let me go to all topics actually. When you go to all topics, it's a lot easier to see what has been posted. This version, it's a little bit longer, and you can see the material that we're gonna be accessing. It's both of these, Route 66 map, the benchmark book for the read aloud, and then here is some digital copies of the actual lesson 2 and lesson 4. But check this out. If you go to all topics, it's a little easier to scroll down to see reading comprehension, and now it's laid out for you. This symbol symbolizes material that I'm giving you, and then this symbol here looks like a little piece of notebook paper with lines on it, symbolizes an assignment. Your assignment here is digital, but you have the paper copy. You complete that, it's just fine, okay? So these little nuts and bolts here are just gonna help you kids to help yourself when it's coming time to finish up these and start these language arts lessons. So basically, these are going to be the materials that we're using today. A Route 66 map, your Benchmark Universe book here, and then also our Developing a Nation comprehension questions down here, which I will be using the paper copy, okay? So before we dive into that, let's take a look at Developing a Nation. Developing a Nation. Fourth grade is all about how did our nation develop in regards to the west coast of the United States. And in doing so, we are going to start to learn about, well, think about it. Look at this picture right here. What do you see here? Got a covered wagon. You have what looks to be like some sort of a path. Maybe some worn down wagon wheel tracks that might simply resemble a road. And in developing a nation, pathways to get around in your nation are very, very important. So we're going to open up our book. And as we open up our book, we will see, we got our table of contents, got our annotation tips over here, and we're gonna keep on turning. And then we have our essential questions. How do communities evolve? How do communities change? How does a nation that is brand new, how does it change? And it can change in so many different ways. So today we are going to be focusing on, if you continue turning the pages, we're going to be focusing on a way that communities evolve or communities change or a nation changes by the creation of roads, right? We didn't show up here and have all of these miles and miles and miles and miles of paved roads, right? We had to create those, and we ended up creating these out of necessity. We needed roads in order to do many, many things. And that's what we're going to be reading about today, okay? So this title is The Open Road. And then here we have Route 66. Well, to understand Route 66, what I've done is I've put a map of Route 66 onto your Google Classroom. And this is the tool that I'm clicking on right now. And you will see as this tool slowly opens up, we have a map of the United States that shows in red Route 66, okay? Route 66 started in Chicago, Illinois, right? And then it goes south through Missouri, goes through Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and then eventually California, okay? So Route 66 becomes this lifeline, right? That cars can travel to get from basically the east coast of the United States all the way over to the west coast of the United States. And we're going to be talking about this road and why it was developed. Why did we create Route 66? Okay? And Route 66 was created for many reasons. And we are going to dive into why. All right? So, as we proceed through our benchmark, we have our short read 1. And short read 1 is a passage about Route 66. It's 6 paragraphs long, and in order to read this, we can click on another resource. If you go back. And in order to access the read aloud of Benchmark Unit 7, you can click on this Clever Login link right here. I know it says Clever Login, but if you do click on it, it's not going to take you to Clever per se, the home screen. It's going to take you right to your benchmark text. And you can, from here, get to the correct page either by clicking on this little arrow down here, okay? And this only works, boys and girls, if you are logged in using your Google username and password, okay? So you can click on this page, get our essential question, how do communities evolve? And then you see on this 4th page here is our story. And so the read aloud here of the Open Road Route 66 is going to help you to understand our lesson. And it's also going to allow you to answer the questions that you're being asked on your activity. For example, our first activity that we are going to be doing with the Open Road is a key details and main idea lesson, okay? And that is this here. Now remember, when you are looking for key details, okay, there are key details everywhere in writing, but these are key details with a purpose, okay? These are, well, our purpose statement really is we want to annotate key details that tell about, okay, that tell about the development of Route 66, okay? Why was Route 66 developed? How was it developed? What were the driving factors behind wanting to create this road that stretches all the way from Chicago, Illinois, all the way to California? Okay, so these are gonna be the key details that we're looking for. And now might be a good time for you to pause this video and listen to the story so that you can underline any key details that tell about this road, this development of Route 66. Okay, so go ahead and pause this video, and then you can do your read aloud, underlining any key details. Mrs. Smith, for example, found a key detail in paragraph 1 that when cars were invented in the 1890s, there were only 144 miles of paved roads. Now, if you look and then she notated where she found that, paragraph 1. So you need to do that for each key detail. So as we're looking and we're scanning, the first automobiles appeared in 1890s. Okay, and then I see this clue word of 144 miles. At that time, there were only 144 miles of paved roads in the nation. Probably a key detail letting us know that, well, we were going to need more miles of paved roads in order to develop our nation. Okay, so go ahead and pause this video and proceed in either listening through Clever or reading aloud to yourself or with your families, underlining key details about the development of Route 66. Okay, now that I have read the open road Route 66, I have gone through and I underlined any key details that would tell me about the development of Route 66. Okay, so anything that I underlined had to do with why did the people of our nation, of the United States, we're still very young at this time, why did we develop Route 66? And so as I remind myself of my first detail, actually Mrs. Smith provided this example. When cars were invented in the 1890s, you can see the key detail starts where the quotation marks are. Any key details that you pull out, put quotation marks around it. So that way you remind yourself of where that came from. You didn't create it, you got it from someone else's thoughts and writing. There were only 144 miles of paved roads, and that was in paragraph 1. Okay? I spotted another key detail number 2, and that came right after this idea of there were only 144 miles of paved roads, and that's the description of what that even means, okay? And that would tell me in quotation marks, when people went for a drive, cars bounced along dirt tracks, okay? When people went for a drive, they bounced along dirt tracks. Where did these dirt tracks come from? Why were they bouncy? Why were there even tracks? Think about that question. Okay, and that's still paragraph 1. Okay? And then there was this other deal, dust blew and mud splattered. Now these are clue words. I'm not going to put those key details in quotations because I'm actually going to take dust blew and mud splattered and I'm going to put that in my own sentence. Okay? Dust blew and mud splattered when driving on these tracks. And I don't need to put that in quotation marks because I didn't take an entire sentence. I just took some clue words and I made my own sentence. But I do want to remind myself of where I got that. Paragraph P1. Okay, so go ahead and pause this video and take a look at paragraph 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 so that you can do the same thing. You can recognize the key details that you underlined and remind yourself, are they telling you about the development of Route 66? Does it answer the question, why was it developed, or how it was developed, or what happened after it was developed? Okay, all right, pause the video and proceed to write down the rest of your key details. I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, so now I have taken all of the details that I underlined that help me to answer my purpose or my prompt of finding key details that tell about the development of Route 66. And in doing so, we located 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 key details from all of that information. And with each one of those, I decided, I think it's better not just to copy word for word each one of these details, but rather try to figure out how I can put them into my own words. And so with key detail number 4, okay, the first thing that I decided that I would do is I would take the key detail. There were no gas stations, okay, or road maps, right? That's what it says here. There were no gas stations or road maps. And I put that in my own words, kind of. So I use that portion. I use so much of that for my own sentence that I actually put that portion in quotation marks because it was more than just a few clue words that I used from the author. And then I tagged on these 3 detail words. There were no gas stations or road maps on these trails. Okay, so the dust blew and the mud splattered when driving on these tracks and trails, all right? And there were no gas stations or road maps on these trails, and that came from paragraph 2. Now, I decided that was important because, well, if they are going to develop a road, it seems like it would make sense to develop a road because you don't want to get dust in your face, you don't want to be splattered with mud, right? And you don't want to be bouncing around all over the place. So what is a key detail about the development of a nice, beautiful paved Route 66? Those reasons there. Okay, moving on to my next detail that I included. Henry Ford created an affordable car, right? And this car was called the Model T. It was the first affordable car that people could use to drive themselves around. And because Henry Ford created an affordable car, the Model T, okay, I put that in my own words, right? I underlined this detail. Then in 1908, Henry Ford introduced the Model T automobile. This car was affordable. I took those 2 details and I made it one sentence, right? And that was my 5th detail. And it shortened it up a little bit too, because we don't have a whole lot of room to include too many details, right? If you need more space, of course, get another piece of paper. Affordable cars was my next key detail, and this came from paragraph 3 still, and this meant, okay, affordable cars meant that more people were driving, right? Cause and effect. Affordable cars, more people are going to buy them, more people are driving. And that caused the country to need more gas stations and paved roads and maps, right? So as more people own cars, the need for paved roads, gas stations, and new maps increased, right? That's the purpose behind it. That's a great detail to include. And I put it in my own words, right? It's a great skill to practice. Now, moving on to my 7th detail. This is where I really start to put these details into my own words, right? So I underlined people with cars wanted to go places. They needed better roads to do that. Congress passed the Federal Aid Road Act, right? So what does all that mean? What do those 3 details mean? Well, to me, it meant that people wanted to explore, so the government spent money on nice paved roads. That's what it means when Congress is passing a Federal Aid Road Act. Anytime Congress does something for aid, it's going to mean that the government is going to spend some money on, in this case, roads, right? Now, my last detail coming from paragraph 5 includes a lot of details into one sentence, right? So Route 66 was one of the first good roads. It stretched from Chicago to Los Angeles, as I showed you earlier on the map. Gas stations, motels, all-night diners beside the highway. Some built special attractions for tourists. Others drove west to California seeking a better life. And truckers began transporting goods cross-country. Now, what does all this mean to you? Think about the movie Cars, right? And you got this small little town, Radiator Springs, and Radiator Springs is tucked into Carburetor County, and we had this sleepy little road. Well, that sleepy little road in the movie Cars is likely symbolizing Route 66, okay? It is symbolizing what the original roads in America looked like, right? And then we got these massive highways and interstates created eventually, and then the need for Route 66 kind of went away. And so think about Route 66 and close your eyes and visualize it as Radiator Springs. In there, what do you have? You got the gas station, you got the Cozy Cone, you got your motels, and you have your diners. You can get your tires changed, right? All of the things that were on Route 66 were tucked into Radiator Springs, which is tucked into Carburetor County. I love saying that. And so for you kids, that is kind of that's a way for you to build a mental model of what Route 66 is, what was it, what did it look like. The movie Cars, it could be that mental model for you. So in all of these details here, I made it into one sentence, okay? And it looks like this. Route 66 stretched from Chicago to Los Angeles, which helped truckers transport goods and people looking for a better life. I realized that I had already added in these details about the gas stations, so I felt like I didn't need to add that detail anymore. So this is the way that I have put down my key details to help me personally understand the development of Route 66. Now we have to make the main idea. On to the main idea. This actually is pretty nice because we have to create a main idea, but in the second part of this activity, it's exactly what we're looking for in a main idea. A main idea is at most 2 sentences, okay? Really, if you're gonna tell someone the main idea of something, you're gonna say it. in one sentence, okay? And part A of this question here, it states what is the main idea of this passage, and each one of these choices is one sentence, but only one of them is a one sentence main idea that describes this passage. Okay, most of these sentences, if not all of these sentences, are in the passage, but do they describe the main idea? Does that one sentence cover all of the details that we highlighted in our passage, right? Whether we highlighted it from paragraph 1, okay, paragraph 2. Now we got 3 details from paragraph 1. We got a detail from paragraph 2, a couple from paragraph 3, right? A detail from paragraph 4 and 5, right? So there's our details and our paragraphs that we located them in. And how can we take all of these details and put them into one sentence, right? Does it capture the purpose of our activity, which is to find key details about the development of Route 66? Well, our end goal here is to create that one sentence main idea that helps us to talk about why did Route 66 get developed. And so if we look at answer choice A, we see that there were only 144 paved roads in the 1890s when cars were first built, first invented. Now, yeah, that sentence was certainly in our passage, but does that capture the meaning of Route 66? We did use it as a detail, but I don't think it's going to capture the entire main idea. Henry Ford invented the affordable Model T, a wonderful detail that describes why Route 66 inevitably became necessary, but does it capture the meaning of the whole passage? The government helped fund the building of highways. They certainly did, and without that government help, it would have been very, very difficult or a longer time coming for Route 66 to be developed. And then we come to D. D starts with Route 66. Right? This passage is about Route 66. So when I read something that when I read a main idea sentence that starts with Route 66, I'm probably going to be leaning towards this main idea, right? Route 66 was a good road that made traveling easier. That is the main idea of this passage. But I would go even further and say Route 66 was a good road that made traveling easier with those attractions and motels. I'd say more fun, not funner. And this really, really important detail of the truckers being able to transport goods, right? It was a good road that made traveling easier, more fun, and the transporting of goods to other parts of the country. Okay, so when you are creating a main idea, you're really creating one sentence, 2 at max, right? If you're gonna read this passage and then mom, dad, somebody asks you about what you just read, they're asking you for the main idea. They're not looking for the whole story. They want a quick main idea so that they can go back to making dinner, making lunch, making breakfast, folding laundry, binge watching that Netflix series. They want a real quick main idea sentence there. So Route 66 was a good road that made traveling easier, more fun, and transporting of goods to other parts of the country easier as well. And I gathered all of that from our details that were underlined. So let's go ahead and finish part B of this question. Which sentence from the passage supports the main idea from part A? Today, not much left of Route 66. When people went for a drive, cars bounced along dirt tracks. C, Route 66 was one of the first good roads that linked small towns and big businesses. For many horse-drawn carriages or trains, horse-drawn carriages, for many, horse-drawn carriages or trains were still the best way to travel. And so when you are looking at what is the sentence that is going to support this main idea that we chose here, Route 66 was a good road that made traveling easier, which one of these details over here helped to create this main idea? We can see here, if things are going to be easier because of Route 66, the detail of when people went for a drive, right? Cars bounced along dirt tracks. That tells me if you're bouncing, that's nothing easy about bouncing along dirt tracks unless you're on a well-suspended dirt bike or something. So to make things easier, they developed Route 66. All right, so that's our first go at key details, main ideas, and doing all of this virtually. Okay, make sure that you are reading the passages first. Make sure that you're pausing this video at times so that you can try to independently create your sentences. And remember, right, we usually largely do these lessons together, but I'm inspiring you to not just copy what's up here, but try to create your own sentences so that it sounds similar, or that the details that you gathered could come to the conclusion or main idea that is similar to what I have here. There is not one right way to do these activities. Okay, so good luck. I hope that this was informative, and I will see you and talk to you later. Thank you.